I'm Leonard Nimoy. Join me for In Search of
An Argument.
Welcome to In Search of an Argument. I'm John Heinz, one of your co-hosts, in case you're not recognizing my voice and or face if you're watching us on YouTube. I'm joined today by Shelley Cummings in Indianapolis and Beth Shannon, who is calling from, I think, home, but somewhere in the Hudson Valley, Poughkeepsie? Okay,
Poughkeepsie.
I got it, in Poughkeepsie. And we have a special treat for our listeners today. We are turning the tables on one of our regular co-hosts and our typical kind of alpha host, Jim Gentili, who's joining us from his home in Brooklyn, where he's probably still trying to figure out his local coffee shop more than his former DC neighborhood. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But Jim's here to prove that wisdom wrong, though he'd probably prefer to use a younger animal for the metaphor. While he spent his entire life based in the D.C. area, and I've known him in Silver Spring, Maryland, Jim's never been the kind of guy to stay put. We were just discussing before we jumped on the air him not having visited his youngest son, his middle son in L.A. Yet, even though his son's been living there for a substantial number of months. But he is the kind of friend who will jump on a plane and come to China to visit you, which he did when I was living there. He was one of a handful of people who actually came to visit me. And his passport may not have a lot of stamps, but his Southwest frequent flyer miles sure as hell do. He has now taken a very big leap that many of us have been wanting to talk about for a while, and he's been dragging his feet on because, of course, he's not going to take the initiative because, well, it involves him. So he has packed up decades of memories and, his whole life and moved to New York City, not for a job, not because he was forced to, because, the man made him do it, but because he wanted to move to the place where that a place that he loves, even if it means having to navigate the grossly underfunded New York subway. The Nate Silver article lately was really good for those of you who haven't read it about that. Even if honestly, the New York subway makes DC's metro look like a kiddie ride. Today's conversation is about transformation, about having the courage to chase new dreams, even when you're past the age where most people are settling into their favorite armchair with a good book and complaints about the neighbors. We'll explore what it means to rebuild your daily routines in a new city. Trading familiar coffee shops, although Jim doesn't drink coffee, for new discoveries, and learning that New York's walking distances means something very different than it did in Silver Spring, especially when you're carrying groceries up a lot of stairs and probably down a lot of stairs too. Jim's story is particularly fascinating because it's been driven by a beautiful convergence of family, 3 of his children and grandkids in the New York area, and a lifelong affair with theater, and which I've had the privilege of experiencing firsthand. We've seen a lot of amazing shows together, and I want to talk about that. Though I suspect the real reason he moved was to avoid my constant attempts to convince him to move to frozen Chicago, which I know he can't handle. I'm thinking we're also going to drag kicking and screaming into this conversation Beth Shannon's move, because she also, although not, I think she's are you from Connecticut?
Mm-hmm.
Although she's from Connecticut, she lived a substantial amount, if not the majority of her adult life in D.C. and has recently moved back to the New York area. And I don't really know where Poughkeepsie is exactly. I've heard of it, but I kind of picture it as suburban New York, and maybe that's an insult to people from Poughkeepsie. So I don't mean to say it that way if that's inappropriate. From the challenge of winter weather, which Jim will soon discover is a whole different ballgame from DC's 2-inch snowfall shutdowns, to the joy of spontaneous Broadway shows, from navigating new neighborhoods to finding your favorite budget spot, because let's face it, that's half the reason anybody moves to New York. We're going to explore how this bold move is reshaping Jim's daily life. And perhaps most importantly, we're going to discuss what it means to embrace major life changes when you're at a stage when most people's adventure is trying to figure out a new flavor of Metamucil. So join us for this special episode as we explore aging adventurously, the magnetic pull of New York City, and the courage it takes to start a new chapter when you least expect it. This is In Search of an Argument, where today we're searching for Jim's new favorite pizza place. A task that could take us several episodes to reveal. Jim, welcome to the show.
John, I think unfortunately we're out of time.
Good intro, John.
Yeah, thanks. ChatGPT helped with that
Now,
one. Actually,
the
Claude.
next time I get criticized for going on too long in the podcast,
I learned it from the master. What are
I
you
just
talking
want
about?
to play back this introduction, which is much longer than anything I have to say. I have no idea what you're talking about,
What?
basically.
You moved to New York.
I did move to New York, but I really don't know what you're talking
And you're
about.
old.
I'll start
I am
off. I have a
old,
question
yes.
for Jim.
Yes.
So, what made you decide to move to New York, other than maybe the children factor?
That was
or
the
what-
main.
That was the main thing.
I mean,
Okay.
I've always. It's true. I've always liked New York, but I don't. I mean, who knows what would have happened? But
And why Brooklyn?
well, that's where Michael and Katrina and the grandkids, and where Will lives. So that's
Okay.
why, just close to them.
Nobody really moves to Manhattan anymore.
Well, it's also expensive. Manhattan's
Well, that's not
generally more
true. So
expensive.
yesterday I went to Soho to see my friend Beth's son's first apartment in the city.
How
But
old is
he's
he?
young and works on Wall Street, so he can
Yeah,
afford to
yeah.
move to Soho. But
So I don't know I don't know if you know what he paid for an apartment in Soho, but it's
$3,500 for a
that-
studio.
that's substantially more than I'm paying for
Yeah.
what is probably technically not a studio, because it actually has 2 rooms, so it's probably not a studio technically. Although it's small. It's much smaller than the place.
So when I
live.
come to visit with 2 children and a husband, you won't hear us snoring in the other room.
Well, probably will, because I can hear people snoring next door across the hall. No,
Oh, wow.
a guy, the one of the people who lives across the hall. There's a couple who lives across the hall. Actually saw me the other day and said, "Hey, are you all right? I thought I heard somebody scream." And I was like worried, and I said, "It's probably just watching like a football game or something, and screaming at the TV or something." But yeah, I mean, it's the building I live in is a 3-story, old townhouse that has been converted into apartments. There's 5 apartments. There's 1 on the ground floor, and then there's 2 on each of the other floors, and I'm up on the 3rd floor. And basically it's one big room, and then a small room, which is basically the bed chamber, and where I am right now, which is where I have my desk and everything, and then
Bad
a
feng shui.
bathroom.
Horrible feng shui. Never have your office in your bedroom. I do it anyway. Ted and I argue about it all the time. Ted wants to put a piano in our freaking bedroom. I can't stand it. Okay, but it works for
It
you.
sounds more romantic than having your office in the bedroom, I have to say. But
And our my good friend and former podcast guest Rob Finch lives in Manhattan
right, he
and
does.
has
I don't
loved
know how
it.
much he pays, but he's lived there for a long time.
He has.
And he may be in a rent stabilized place, so
He is not.
He's not in a
He
rent
is
stabilized
not.
place. Well,
He
then he's
moved to a bigger place during COVID because they needed to fill all of the places, and the place that he is now in is bigger, and they do keep
well. I don't know
increasing
what
his
Rob
rent.
pays, but I'm betting he pays significantly more than I am paying in Brooklyn. I'm sure.
Yes, I'm
I
sure.
mean,
he
I would
does,
love
too.
to live in Times Square. I mean, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Although I've told that to numerous people in New York, and they're like, "That's nuts. Why would you want to live in Times Square? It's all these tourists." And I'm like, I basically feel like a tourist, so that's.
And he did. I mean, you could look out and see.
Yeah, no, we talked about it when he
Yeah,
was on.
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean, that would be fine with me. But I mean, again, you're also talking about in addition to the proximity to the kids, there's also a substantial cost factor.
Well, Hell's Kitchen's right next
Certainly.
door, and you can walk to Times Square in 5 seconds. That's where
Yeah,
my
But
friends
that's
in
also
Manhattan.
very
expensive too.
John.
It's very
Oh, I know.
trendy.
I get it. No, I get it.
Uh-huh.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, that's probably more expensive than actually living in Times Square. I'm guessing.
What
because-
percentage of people do you know in New York who do have rent control? Because I feel like I know. I'd say I know
I don't
5%
know.
of people.
Nobody
there.
I know. I mean, the only people I know who would know for sure would be the 2 kids, and I mean, Michael and
Yeah.
Katrina have a place they own, so
Yeah.
that's that's better than rent control probably. But
Yeah.
also
So do you think
expensive.
Eric Adams is going to invite in from Trump's administration the rent control czar and try to
Yeah.
kiss his butt so he doesn't get prosecuted federally?
I don't think Eric Adams is going to be mayor of New York a year and 5 days from now, but we'll see. I don't think he's going to win re-election. He's very, very unpopular, according to all the evidence in the city of New York. So.
So, Jim, are you unpacked?
Yeah, I'm unpacked. Sure. I found out, always finding out new things, until a week ago. I thought I was living by myself, but a week ago I found out that I have a mouse in the apartment.
Oh,
Oh.
So,
You're
little
kidding.
yeah,
pet.
no. Saw him scurrying off in the night. So,
Oh my gosh.
Did you talk to the landlord?
What's
Oh,
the
yeah,
landlord's obligation on that? I
no,
assume
they're sending
substantial.
an exterminator. It's
Okay.
Okay.
not an issue. It's just that because of the holidays, the earliest the exterminator can come is next Friday.
Oh, I thought you were
So-
going to say because of the holidays there was there were a lot of cookie crumbs and it was
No, I
it's a
no,
feast.
there's not
That
a
I
lot
saw
of-
Ratatouille, so okay, yeah.
No, I don't think that. I don't think I am responsible for the mouse. I mean, it's New York City. You have mouse. I mean, you're lucky you don't have rats.
Is
I
it just an
mean,
exterminator, or is an exterminator and like somebody to plug all the holes?
I don't think this house you're going to be able to plug all the holes. It's like it's
How old's the
old.
building?
I would guess it's probably 1940s or something like that, or maybe
Okay.
even older.
Wait, you said there are 5 units on the ground floor, then 2
No,
and
no,
2?
no,
How
no,
many?
One unit.
One on the ground and then 2 and 2.
Two. It's 5 units total.
Okay. So it's like on the street thing, it's like a
It
dual.
looks like a townhouse.
It looks like a
It
townhouse.
looks like a
Okay.
townhouse.
All right, I got
It
it.
is. It
It is.
was. I'm sure at one
Okay.
point a townhouse.
Okay.
And it got converted.
So when you go in the front door, you go up like some stairs, like brownstone look.
Absolutely.
That like kind of that. All right, I got it.
It's not brownstone, but
It's not a
yes.
brownstone, but it looks like that. Okay.
So it's 2 flights of stairs. From
Does the owner live in the building?
No. Oh, no. I don't have no idea who the owner is. I know who the there's a guy who manages the building. He was also the guy who dealt with me when I was renting the place, but he does not own. I mean, at least unless he's lying and he is the owner, maybe I don't know. The rent gets paid to some company name, so I'm sure that's. But everybody has a company name. Beth has a company name.
I have
so-
everybody has who doesn't have a
Everybody has a
company name? I have several. What the
I
heck?
don't.
But
Companies
so,
for everyone.
Well, that's because you actually have a real job, Shelley. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So I don't know.
All right, Jim. So my
Here's what will happen. My guess is that the landlord is probably some person or persons, but probably a person, maybe a family or something. And at some point, whoever owns the property is gonna die or retire, and when that happens, they're gonna they're going to sell this as they're going to kick us all out and sell it to somebody like Mike and Katrina, because that's essentially what they did, and they'll
make it a
convert-
single
they'll-
family home.
Yeah, and of course they'll probably gut the place and
Right.
rebuild
Oh,
it,
yeah.
so they won't have a mouse problem anymore. Or
Oh, yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I mean, when I say they don't have a mouse, there's a mouse.
Yeah,
I saw a
yeah,
mouse.
no,
I'm
no,
not saying
no.
I don't want to. Oh my God, we're overrun.
I don't
with
think
vermin.
I don't think you have to worry about being defamatory to the landlord on this one. So
I
it's
do.
actually
I
a
wanna
mouse's
feel that-
evidence is like
I want
solid.
to stay on the good side of the land. No, they've not been any problems with the land.
All right. So when you looked for
Now,
this place, you broke
Wait a
all
minute.
the rules.
Just, let me
Oh,
just
go
say,
ahead. Go
Let me
ahead.
just say also that some other highlights of my 3 months in New York have been that when I rented the place before I actually moved in, I lost my wallet. That was actually before I moved in. That's like the day I made the agreement to rent the place. Since I've been here, I've lost my keys.
Oh my God.
My printer is not working. Hasn't worked since I moved. And then I have this really old I don't know what it was originally, maybe a china closet. I don't even remember where I got it. I kind of think my brother Tom may have gotten it in an estate sale, and I got it from him through that. But anyway, it's really nice. Beth has seen it. If John,
Mhm.
you've probably seen it. You
I
probably may
saw
have it. So I use it for to keep books in, and it's huge, and so it's of two pieces. There's a bottom and then there's actually John may not have seen it because I never actually put it together at the old place because I knew I was going to be moving at some point. So I finally got some reliable people who Will has dealt with to do like tasks for him, and they came in and they put the thing and actually attached the top part to the bottom part, and which was great because I've been waiting to get that done. And so then and it had these glass shelves, so I put the glass shelves in
Mm-hmm.
and put the books in,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went out and I came back, and there must have been a fracture in one of the glass shelves because
Oh no.
the top glass shelf like split, like it was an even split. It looked like someone had cut it with a knife.
Mm.
And of course that fell, the books fell, and it broke the bottom
Oh
glass shelf.
no!
That was that was shattered into pieces. The top shelf, it looked like it looked like it almost was like two separate pieces.
Yeah.
So there must have been, some kind of fracture that we didn't know. It's possible that when it was being moved and, that something happened to it, or maybe, who'd have been fractured before and it just got, worse or something. Anyway, so I have to I have not replaced. I need to get those shelves replaced. I'm going to get wooden shelves.
Smart.
because
I was
probably-
gonna say, if you're using it for a bookshelf, it probably. I'm assuming it was more of a china cabinet. It was designed for.
It probably
'cause if
was
it's
but I mean,
glass.
but although
not for
glass,
books.
but although I had books in it in the other place.
I mean, they do sell glass now that's as strong as
Yeah.
wood. You can
I
get
mean,
that.
plus
if you wanna
it's not
spend a
if
lot
you're
of money.
putting like plates and everything in there. They're not. They are weighty
True.
materials as
True,
well.
true,
It's
true.
not like you're just displaying flowers
True.
in there. I don't think it was a weight problem. I mean, the way the thing broke, it just looked like there must have been some pre-existing fracture because I've never seen a piece of glass break like without like a jagged thing. When it breaks cleanly like that, you have to think there's some kind of like fracture that
Yeah,
just,
right. Did it crack in the middle of the night while you were sleeping and scare
No,
the
no, while I
Jesus
was
out of you?
out.
Oh,
No,
while you were
while I
out.
was
So you
out.
just
I
came
came
home
home
to
and to
shattered.
the thrill of seeing, I look and there's like books falling and then there's glass and so, that was fun.
So do you
Um,
have a ghost in your house, Jim?
no, I don't. Well, all the floors are slanted, so it's possible that,
Jim, I want to ask you about your getting the place, but this is a total. I'm doing this on mic. Can you move your mic slightly to the side of your mouth? You're getting a lot of pops, and you can keep it close to your mouth, but just on the side of your mouth, so I don't hear that
Yeah.
pop, pop, pop. That's what I want to hear, and keep it close.
Beth
Otherwise,
was
it's great.
complaining beforehand that I was
Just
not
on the side,
loud
it's
enough.
better. No, loud is good. We like loud. It's perfect now. Hey, so tell me about you broke all the rules when you moved into that place because, as far as I recall, you telling the story. I think this is the last time we talked about this on the podcast too. You had your youngest son actually research and find the apartment, look at it, and sign and basically send you the lease. Sight unseen, you
No,
took this
that's
place.
completely wrong.
Okay, good. So fix the story. Tell me the story. I must have had a dream about it. I have a lot of dreams that seem like reality these days, and I just own them.
No. I did not do that. Well, what
How'd you find
happened
the place?
is okay. So this is very. So what happened is, I come up earlier in the summer and started looking. The problem is, or at least I don't know what is true. I mean, this is the first time I've moved in. The last time I moved, Beth was helping me move, and that was like we were still working at the college, and it was like I don't know, 13 or 14 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know what it's like to move any place now, except in New York, because it's the only place I've moved. But anyway, you cannot really look for a place more than like a month in advance. Like if they have a place that they're advertising, they are not advertising for like you to move in September 1 if it's July 1. They want you to move in August 1, maybe even July 15th.
Wow.
Okay. So that was one thing that was kind of crazy. So the first trip wasn't really because I wasn't really going to move till October 1. That it was the first trip. I saw some places, but it was more or less a practice thing. The other thing you learn, or I learned, is that you cannot rent an apartment in New York without paying what they call a broker's fee, which is usually equivalent to at least 1 month's rent. So in addition to the traditional first and last month's rent, you're paying essentially a third month's rent to get an apartment. So it's like
A
instead
lot
of
of
putting
money
up
up front.
2 months rent, you're putting up 3 months rent. Now, the city of New York, the city council has recently passed a bill outlawing that.
They'll find a workaround.
Well, I
You have
mean,
to pay
what
double the first month's rent as
no,
the,
no, no,
or the
no,
first 2
no,
months and the
no,
last 2
no,
months' rent.
First and
no. What
last.
the workaround
They
will
always
be
find a
is that
workaround.
they will. That what they're saying is that as when you buy a house,
Yeah.
the the person who the broker, the agent is working for should pay that fee. In other words, you don't pay when you buy a house, you pay your buyer's agent fee, but you don't pay the seller's agent fee. The seller pays that, right?
Depends. It
Well,
depends.
that's
That's
way
not always
normal.
true.
Anyway, so they want it to work like that because there are brokers who buyers brokers who will work for you.
So the landlord paid the broker as well as you paid the broker and the
No.
landlord paid the broker.
No, the landlord
That's
doesn't
actually
pay
my
the-
experience. That's how it is with buying houses and with renting houses in Chicago. It's the same thing. It's the same.
Well,
My experience is you're like
yeah.
either like usually the
Anyway, the point is it's a terrible practice to have to pay the landlord's broker
yeah, of course.
fee.
Yeah.
So
Chicago has
I-
brokers now too, John. Chicago
No,
does?
I mean,
agent,
I've
what they
used
call them.
agents many
Oh.
times. Yeah, I've used a real estate agent to rent places, and usually if I'm the landlord, I'm paying that person a month's rent, and I have a contract with that agent, right? I have a contract with them to do that.
Right.
If I'm selling, if I'm buying and selling, maybe I have that reversed. Gosh, how did I not remember this?
I never.
But it's
when my
only one
renting-
person pays. It's 6% in Chicago
Yeah.
of the sale price, and I'm pretty sure that the seller pays that because again, they have the contract with the agent. They choose the agent.
Yeah, but you got to so it's more like so if it's 1 month's rent, and by some places it's more than 1 month's rent, but if it's 1 month's rent, which seems to be the pretty much the standard, so that's basically about 8.5% of a year's rent.
Yeah. Oh no, it's
plus
a lot of money up front.
It's a
That's
lot,
of money up front
if you're renting a place.
for $3,500 a month. You're pushing.
So
yeah,
what
a
they
lot of
are
money.
saying, which is undoubtedly true, is what will happen is that the landlord will absorb the fee, and what will that do is it will end up raising the rent. However, and that's probably the way the market should work. However, the fact is the amount of upfront money is often difficult, especially for people of limited means.
course.
So yes, they'll
course.
end up paying more monthly rent, but that's a little bit different thing than coming up
Right.
with a third
Right.
monthly
Right.
rent.
It's like a
Mhm.
as
payment
the
plan.
upfront thing. Right. And essentially it's not like you will shift the costs ultimately.
Yeah, makes sense.
But you will make it so that it's more affordable for
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good thing. I don't know whether Adams is going to veto the bill, but my understanding is they have enough votes to override it, even if he does veto it.
But
So it's
this
probably
is
gonna
this is cat and mouse for sure, though, because
so
the
in other words,
landlords will
I
figure
moved
out
a year
something.
too soon. Is in other words what I'm saying. So it's your fault for making me move a year too soon, John. Because if I moved next year, I wouldn't have to pay
Well,
the
now
damn.
you have
fee.
lower rent.
Well, I would rather
There you
have
go.
paid. I would rather have not paid the broker's fee.
All right, let's move on to theater.
All
What
right,
have you
wait a
seen?
minute. Wait a minute. Do you want me
sorry.
to finish?
Oh, sorry.
The
Okay,
story
sorry.
or
Yeah, finish the
not?
story. Finish the story. Sorry.
So then I came back. So
Oh, yeah,
in
we
the
didn't finish the story.
meantime, I had talked to someone who Michael and Katrina knew, who is a real estate guy, and he works as a buyer's broker. And so what he said was, if I wanted to hire him, he would charge a 1 month's fee, but that that he would, I get basically what he said is, you won't have to pay the buyer's fee if you pay me. So I guess they probably have some kind of internal arrangement so that they split the fee and if you hire. So in other words, I was about ready to do it. I had decided I'm going to come up for the weekend, or for a few days, whatever it was. I can't remember. It was a weekend now, and I'm going to take a look around. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to hire this guy, and I'm going to put my stuff in storage on October 1st. And then if I don't get a place till November 1st, Beth was even talking about, because she was going away, and I was even going to house sit for her for part of that time. And then I knew I had to be back in D.C. for part of October because of my high school reunion. So that was where my head was, that I was going to, I will come up and I'll take a look around, but I'm just going to hire this guy because I figure I'm going to pay the broker's fee anyway. I might as well get somebody to do some work for it, right? So that was my thinking. So it just came up, and then So the way you find places, or at least the only way this is what the kids tell me, and it's the only thing I know, is there's all these listing services like Hot Pads and I don't know what they're called. Hot Pads is the only one that comes to mind. I think that's the one. And they all list, pretty much all of them list the same stuff. So like if you list with one, you pretty much, and then you just go and you figure out, what you're looking for, what your price range is. It's like any online thing. You're looking, you can say below this amount or above this amount, how many bedrooms, what part.
Mhm.
And of course, part of the trick is, uh, say for Brooklyn, but to some extent for Manhattan, but more so for Brooklyn, is figuring out what these neighborhood designations mean, because none of them basically are official.
Right.
There's no such
Right.
thing officially as Park Slope,
Right.
although most people have heard of it, or at least a lot people in New York have heard of it. I don't know if it's all around the country, but
Mhm.
it's pretty famous. That's where Michael and Katrina, although some people would say they live in South Slope, apparently. I would say it's Park Slope, but what do I know? But the place I live, some people would call it also South Slope, but I think it was on the way it was put on Hot Pads, it was called Greenwood.
Hilarious.
And Greenwood was one of the places I was looking at specifically because, and this was Katrina's insight, which was, if you want to be close, you want to go for one of the neighborhoods that doesn't have as good as schools, because you don't care, because you don't have kids, how
Ah,
good the schools are.
ah,
But the people like us, we're not going to go there because of the school thing,
So
or we're less likely to go there.
that's
But
demand
and
supply.
that means they're going to be slightly cheaper.
Right.
I mean, they're
Yep.
not going to be cheap, but
Yep.
they're going to be
Yep. Yep.
slightly
Yep.
cheaper.
Yep. That's smart.
So that's why I looked at Green. So I saw this thing in Greenwood, and I didn't. It was on 22nd Street, and Willie lives right by 25th Street, so I knew it was close. Well, actually, he lives between 23rd and 25th Street. His address is ostensibly 4th Avenue. I didn't realize how close this was to 4th Avenue. It's less than a block from 4th Avenue on the other side of 4th Avenue. So Willie lives on the east side of 4th Avenue. My apartment is on the west side of 4th Avenue. So it's literally a block and a half from Willie's place. It's on the other side of 4th Avenue and one street down from Willie's place. I didn't realize how close it was. Which is part of the attraction of that for me is that I knew the subway line in the area, and I knew some of the places in the area, and I knew where the gym was because I worked out there when I used to stay. So there was a lot of advantages from this, and I wasn't really expecting to find it. It's a little bit more than what I was expecting, what I was hoping to pay,
Yeah.
but also it was actually larger because like I said, it's not really technically a studio. It's actually really a one bedroom.
Yeah.
So, and then when I told the guy it was a little bit more, he actually dropped the price by about $50 a month. So
When you told him what?
I said, I wasn't really hoping to pay that much.
Oh,
And
he
so he said,
wants
well,
you.
would you pay $2,300? Now, so yeah. So
Old
then
quiet white guy. I'll take him.
that must be it. The old quiet. I am by far the oldest person in this building.
Oh, you
Except for
are?
on game day.
All the
you're
people
Well,
are.
talk about
Oh,
that. Are you the oldest person in your neighborhood?
Oh, I mean, no. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's old people in the neighborhood, but there's a lot of young people in the neighborhood.
It is families. You see a lot of families.
There's a lot of Latino presence in the neighborhood. There's an Islamic school very close by, and there's a lot of uh, people wearing traditional Islamic dress that you
Mhm.
see.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's like like I said, I've been in this neighborhood before, so it's not a real
So where are you eating and drinking? What are your cool neighborhood
okay.
spots?
Well, there's a place, right, like if you walk out of Will, I should explain, lives in this like
Your youngest son.
complex. It's multiple buildings in a complex with a central courtyard. So there are multiple entrances to the complex. One is on 23rd Street, one is on 24th Street, one is on 4th Avenue. If you walk out of the 4th Avenue exit from Will's complex
Mhm.
and immediately turn left, there's this little place called the J Diner, spelled Jey, which is a nice little place. The people are very friendly. It never seems terribly crowded. They make a very excellent pulled pork sandwich. They also have some good salads, so that's a nice little
Breakfast,
place
lunch,
to do.
dinner. More. It sounds like lunch, dinner.
You could go there for breakfast.
Well, what do you
for
go
sure.
there for?
Lunch or dinner.
Okay.
If I go there.
Nice.
I mean, a lot of times I'll just get it and bring it back here to eat it because
Ah.
it's literally a block and like I said, it's a block and a half away from me.
And you are committed to your restaurants. So are there others, or
there are
or
no
do you deep
restaurant that
dive?
has replaced
There's no.
Copper
Okay.
Canyon.
Okay.
in my
Okay.
heart.
Copper Canyon, Silver
Mhm.
Spring.
Uh,
Plug. We should definitely get money from them on this podcast.
I've
that
given
is
them a lot
Jim's.
of
Jim
money.
has
I've spent a lot of
Jim has
money at
handed
that
that. They
place. If
say
it
it'd
is.
be well worth the
And the only
advertising.
bad thing about going down to DC for the day yesterday was I did not have a chance to go to Copper Canyon. So I considered it almost a completely wasted trip for that reason. But I'm going back to DC in February and March, and so I will definitely be spending some time.
You're going to
at
be a
Copper.
snowbird.
No,
Sounds like it.
I'm doing some. I have some medical appointments. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Nothing that is life threatening.
All right. Other restaurants in your neighborhood you like?
Well, there's no real restaurants that are that close. If you walk up to Fifth Avenue, which is east, which is further up. So the Park Slope is
Is a
called
slope.
Park Slope
It's
because
in
there's a
fact a
slope
slope.
up to Prospect Park. So from Fourth Avenue, as you walk up to Fifth Avenue, you're walking up, and then you walk up further to 6th and further to 7th. Michael and Katrina, that's another thing, is the higher you are in the slope, the more fancy it is. Michael and Katrina live near 7th Avenue. Willie and I are down on 4th Avenue.
The wrong side of the slope.
No, it's not the wrong. It's perfectly fine. But there is a subway line, the R, that runs along 4th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a subway stop at 25th, which is 3 blocks from my apartment. So I just go up to 4th and turn right. Now, I could also walk down to Prospect Avenue, which is essentially the same as 17th Street. So that's about 5 blocks if you're going north. And if you go north, and it's hard to describe this because I'm only just learning this. The subway line, the R line, there's another line, the N, which is an express line, but it doesn't stop it doesn't stop. But it goes to Atlantic Avenue, which is like a huge terminus in Brooklyn. It's like the equivalent almost of like Penn Station or Times Square in Manhattan, in that there's a transfer to a lot of different trains there. Plus, you can't get Amtrak, but you can get Long Island Railroad trains there. They're, like commuter trains come in there, not just subway trains. So I am 4 stops from Atlantic Avenue.
Okay.
It's about, if you walked it, which you can do if it's a nice weather, it's about 35 blocks.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Which is, it's not it's for New York.
What's
that's
a block?
not
A block's an eighth of a mile, or no? A block's
Yeah,
8
it's
blocks
usually
to a mile in Chicago.
8
Is it
blocks
about
in a
that?
mile.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about that. Now, there's a difference between street blocks and avenue blocks,
Right,
right?
right,
Because
right.
if you're walking between 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue, that's a
Right,
lot
right.
longer. The street, so
Mhm.
but essentially from where I am, once you're on 4th Avenue, it's a straight shot down 4th Avenue to the Atlantic, and that's where there's a Whole Foods there, there's an Apple store there, there's a Target there, blah blah blah. That's
Right.
where the DMV is.
Right.
Blah blah blah. So
You go
it's
there a
right.
lot.
Right, that is right near. No, I don't go there a lot
Oh.
actually. So far, I haven't gone there as much as I thought I might. There is. That is also not far from BAM, which is the Brooklyn Academy of Music,
I've
which
been
is
there.
also a big film thing. They show film and
Yeah.
theater stuff there
I
as
know where
well.
that is. Okay. So you can walk to BAM from you. Gosh, I
You could
don't
walk.
have a sense
It's
of
got to be
distance.
good weather.
Okay.
I mean, it's
All right.
it's going to take a
I've been
while.
there.
If you're in a hurry, you don't want to do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you can take a subway 4 stops and you're there. And unless
Isn't BAM where Hamilton was started, like they did it there
No,
originally?
I don't think so.
Like
I don't
before
think
it was
that's-
Hamilton, like when they were
It was
testing it
not at
out.
BAM.
It's
I'm
not
pretty
that
sure it
story.
wasn't.
Okay, I don't know. That's okay. That's for some reason that's
But
in my
BAM
head.
is a pretty famous
No,
place.
it's a
but
famous
I-
place. I'm
but
sure
it-
I've been there
that
for
is-
something.
I
I've
don't.
seen
I don't
something there.
believe you're right about that. I could be wrong, but I don't think you are.
All right. Wait.
Um,
I want to switch from location stuff. I want to talk about theater, but we got.
I've only been to one play since I've been in New York. It was not on Broadway. It was off Broadway, and it was last Sunday.
What was it?
I saw an off-Broadway, offbeat production of A Merchant of Venice.
Wow, neat. Who'd you go with?
I went by myself.
Nice.
And,
I love it. I'm so proud of you.
It was not, in my opinion, very good. It was. I knew it was going to be unconventional, but basically they did it.
Was everyone naked?
No,
Oh, I saw Macbeth.
they
where
staged
everybody
it
was
as
naked in
though it was a
Scotland.
cable access TV show. So it was like a meta thing. Like they spent the first 20
Oh.
minutes talking about which actor hadn't showed up to play which part and what was wrong with the scenery and that kind of stuff. Which
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the worst thing, but I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. It was also not very full. It was the last day of the run. I'd never seen The Merchant of Venice on stage. I'm still not sure I've quite seen it on stage. I haven't seen that much Shakespeare on
Why did you
stage.
go see it? Why you're not?
Because I wanted to see The Merchant of Venice, and
Okay.
also the guy who used to be on Grey's Anatomy, T.R. Knight, was in it. You know, Beth knows who that is.
Yes.
Mm.
And Hamilton previewed at the Public Theater of New York City.
Yeah, that's right. That's the old Joe Papp place used to run when he was around. The Public Theater is also very bad. They're the Public Theater are the people who do Shakespeare in the Park in the summers. But anyway, I wanted to see it. It was the last day of the run, so I got a ticket and I went. And I mean, I'm not unhappy. Look, you and I have discussed this before. Even when you have a bad experience, when the play is not good, going to see live theater is still a
Treat.
terrific experience. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't, there was, it was Shakespeare. It was recognizably Shakespeare. I didn't particularly think that the conceit of it worked out particularly well for this play. I guess part of the problem is because of the stuff in the text that raises questions about anti-Semitism and stuff. They're trying to think of a distancing mechanism from the text.
Sure. The
but I'm not sure
the Steppenwolf in Chicago, basically every traditional play you can think of, they do something to mess with it, and usually it involves the race of the actors
Yeah,
or the
and some of
genders
those-
of the actors.
and
They
when
just flip
that-
things. They flip
and
a
that's
lot of
fine.
things.
That's interesting, but I mean, and I get that. I mean, we saw when John and Will and I were in London, we saw an outdoor production of The Tempest, which was not traditional, included a lot of music and stuff, but I thought that worked very well. But Tempest is a very different kind of play than The Merchant of Venice. I like that very well. I saw Glenda Jackson play the title role in King Lear. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah.
So, I'm not opposed to the idea of reconceiving these things. I just didn't think it worked that well.
All right. So what about Little Shop of Horrors, The Play That Goes Wrong, Drunk Shakespeare, Titanic, Vanya,
about-
Salino versus Barnes,
I
Dungeons
saw
versus
Little Shop of
Dragons.
Horrors 40 years ago on the national tour of it came to D.C. I'm not really
Well,
sure.
what's on your list of New York? So how many times have you been to Manhattan?
I would go to Manhattan fairly frequently because I go to the
Daily?
New York Public
Weekly?
Library. I haven't finished telling you. You want to hear about what's life in New York City.
I want
The other thing that has happened to me is
I want
so
more
one
back
of
and forth.
one of the first things I did was get my New York Public Library card. Okay. Now the branch of the New York Public Library I use is called the Jefferson Market branch, which is right by Union. It's close. It's the closest one to Union Square, which is where the new school is, which is not also far from NYU. So basically, it's around 14th and Broadway.
Yep.
That's also where the Strand is.
Yep.
The Strand Bookstore.
Yep.
There's a bunch of stuff there. I
Yep.
know that area fairly well. You can take the R line directly there. Goes stops at Union Square.
So how long does it take you door to door? 10 minutes?
Depends.
Half an hour?
All depends.
10
It's
minutes?
hard.
An hour?
Are you enjoying the subway?
I don't mind the subway. I mean, I've ridden the New York subway for a long time. I do have some concerns about.
Being set on fire.
Well, I have some concerns about that. Yes, I actually, but I guess I would say this: I would have hesitancy riding the subway alone, like say at 2:00 in the morning or something, or 3:00 in the morning.
I think that's.
But you're not usually
reasonable.
out at 2:00 in the morning.
I'm not usually out at 2. But well, here's an example. Like I could have taken an earlier bus yesterday to go down to DC, but I would have had to leave my apartment at like 3:30 in the morning. And I wasn't too crazy about being on the subway at 3:30 in the morning. I was on the subway at
Is that different from 10 years
5:30,
ago
but
or from 20 years ago?
I
Your
probably-
feeling.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have been on the subway by myself at 3:30 in the morning 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So that's one thing. And secondly, I probably was less risk averse going on. Certainly when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was less
Right.
risk averse.
So it was
But,
more about you than about New York.
Well, let me put it this way. New York is certainly safer now than it was in the 80s and 90s as a general rule. It doesn't mean it's not. There's not. But I mean, I think you could say that probably about Chicago and probably about Indianapolis, certainly about DC, right? I mean, the number of murders has declined in most places, but it doesn't mean it's completely safe. And, you're still wise to be careful. I mean, I think
So,
being
Jim,
careful.
isn't there a New York Public Library in Brooklyn, a branch?
No, that is interesting. I did not know this till I moved here. Brooklyn has a separate public library. The New York Public. If you live in Brooklyn, you can access the New York Public Library. I didn't know this till I moved here. You can access the New York Public Library, but the New York Public Library is exclusively in Manhattan.
You're kidding.
There's
no
a separate
idea.
Brooklyn Public Library. I don't know
and
why
how's
that is.
Have you gone to that?
I have not gone to that yet. I mean, I've
Does
really
your
been.
New York Public Library card work in Brooklyn?
You
or
have
no?
to get a separate Brooklyn
Library.
Public Library card.
And you
Now,
haven't done that?
I should point
You're
out
just
that my
throwing
son
some
Willie
shade on
has
Brooklyn?
lived here
Okay.
for. Well, the New York Public Library is something I've always wanted to be able to take books at. I mean,
I know you sent me a picture of your library card. You're
I'm
very
very
proud.
excited about that. So I will check out the Brooklyn Public Library. But I mean, getting there, the closest branch there is still a subway, right? It's not like it's not like there's one next door.
Yeah.
Like when I lived in Silver Spring, I literally could
Yeah.
walk to the library.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across the street. Awesome library. by the way.
Everything I could do, I could walk to in Silver Spring, which I cannot do here. I mean, you can walk, but it's a longer walk.
And it involves being outside.
It involves being
Longer.
outside for a
Yeah.
prolonged
But being
period
outside
of
in New
time.
York, is it really being outside? It's like,
It's
except for
very
the weather.
cold here.
Well, it is
right
cold.
now.
Yeah, whatever, Jim.
And that is not. I'm not thrilled.
I know. You got the big mittens, the snow mittens. And
They'll just
scarf.
lose them. Do not, Jim.
I do have gloves. So
you'll
that's
have to
the other
use it.
thing. So now when I have the gloves, I put them in my bag that I carry with me. Now I always carry my keys in a thing around my neck. The other thing I've lost since I've been here is
You need an air tag for all those
I
things.
went
Or just-
to the
Or just
I
coded
went
entry.
to the New York Public Library and got 5 books out and got on the subway with the 5 books and got off the subway and left the books on the subway.
Oops.
I lost 5 of New York
You need a
Public Library books.
backpack. Do you wear a backpack? You just carry a bag.
Well,
don't you?
there
You're
were
a bag
so
guy.
many. There was 5 of them, so I actually had a separate bag to put them in because they wouldn't fit in my backpack. So,
Have you been evaluated for dementia?
I think
And
that's
I had
real.
mentioned the air tag a long time ago.
The real purpose of this episode is to evaluate me for dementia.
It's a lot
But
of
anyway,
things.
so I went to the New York Public Library, and after I filed it, I immediately knew what happened. As soon as I got off the subway, I said, "Oh shit, I left my." And so I went home, and I immediately got online and filed a missing report with the subway, and they have the whole system of how they do it, and hoping that one of 2 things would happen: either somebody was going to find the books and they would turn them into the subway, or
library.
they would take them back to the
That's
library.
what I would do.
Right? I mean, how hard is either one of those?
Easy.
Neither of those things happen.
Oh.
Sure, it's New York.
So I finally go, after, renewing the books a couple of times to buy myself some time, I call first and I say, "Hey, look, I've lost a bunch of books. I'm,
You
what I
renewed
can't-"
books you don't
a
have.
week
I think there's
after-
an ethical dilemma here.
I don't think it's an ethical dilemma.
There
I was
is an
hoping they would-
ethical dilemma. You
I was
cannot
ho- I
renew
was-
something you don't have.
Because he was hoping that some good Samaritan would be like,
Ah.
somebody left their books. I'm going to
Oh,
go
this
turn them
is
in.
sick.
this is a
Did you
Plus,
brutal.
lose
also, I
them?
was told that on the subway stuff, it sometimes takes a while before they, even if the stuff gets turned in, they don't necessarily get back to you. So there's.
You're kidding. New
So
York
Did
City
you lose
public
them?
service workers aren't diligent and timely in their
I didn't say
responsiveness
I'm
to the
not
public.
criticizing the public service workers. I'm simply saying the system is not necessarily work as fast as
Jim,
possible.
I want to get this timeline down. Did you lose those books the same day you got
Oh,
your very
absolutely.
first
On the
library
way
card?
I was bringing them home.
The very first
I wouldn't
day
have
you
had
got.
5
Wait,
books
wait.
with me.
Jim, you're not listening.
Listen,
Did
let me
you
finish the
lose
question.
them?
The
Yeah.
same day you got your very first library card?
No. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I thought you were asking something else.
Okay.
No, it was not the very first day I got my library card.
Okay.
Have
It
they
was not.
confiscated
It
your
was
card
not
yet?
long.
Yes, right.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you. So I call in and I say, "Look," and he says, "Well, you." I said, "So what do I have to do?" And he says, "Well, you have to pay to replace." I said, "I'd be happy to get replacement books and bring them in." And in fact, I had already gotten the replacement books. And he said, "No, we can't do that." So I said, "Okay." I said, "But you still have to come in personally to report the thing. You can't do it over the phone." I said,
Oh,
"Okay."
that's
So
not.
I went there. I had other books to return, and I need to turn this phone off.
Oh no, it's a good. It's real. It's like you're more relatable now.
And so I go in and I talk to Corrine, and Corrine says, and I said, "Yeah, I feel bad about this, and obviously I want to make it up." But I said I offered over the phone to like actually bring in, buy the books and bring them in, and she said, "Well, maybe we can do that." And I said, "Well, the guy on the phone said no." Well, let me call Frank." So she calls Frank, and Frank says, "Yeah, I'd rather have the books." Well, my guess is that that probably the system for a branch replacing lost books doesn't work very fast. Whereas I can order the books and I've in fact since then I've gotten 4 of the 5 books and brought them in.
But you
So
technically are under the renewal period still.
no.
That's okay. So now
they're
you're
done.
you're in arrears. You're late. Okay. You're late.
Well, but I mean, no, they've taken them off the thing. Now I just owe for the one remaining
wow.
book. Although I've got it on order and I will get it.
So you don't go to
soon.
Bryant Park. You don't go to like other
I mean, what would I
branches?
go in Bryant
The
Park?
library in Bryant Park.
Oh well, I mean, the way I usually
love
do
that
the
library.
library is, unless I were just going to the main reading room just because I wanted to hang out there,
Right.
which is possible,
Right.
and maybe I will do that at
Yeah.
some point.
It's awesome.
It's really easy to get to this branch, and the way I do is I just put books on hold, and you can put them on hold, and they'll bring them to the branch you want to pick them up at. And so that's the basic. I've just picked this branch because it's really easy to get to for me.
Hmm.
It's right on the subway,
Hmm.
so that's why I've been doing it. It's a very light. It's not a huge branch, so they themselves do not have a huge selection of books, but it's a lovely old
Oh, I'm sure.
building that
Oh,
they're
I'm
in.
sure.
And it's
Uh-oh.
right near the IFC Center, which is one of the big movie theaters in New York. And, so I've been to the IFC Center. I've been to the Film Forum. I've been to the Paris Theater.
You have.
I've been to one of the places I go to with Will, which Will has got me onto, is the Alamo Draft House in downtown Brooklyn, which is not that far, which is about 6 subway stops
Draft
away.
house meaning beer drafts? Drafts of
Meaning
beer?
food and beer and other beverages.
The Alamo Draft House.
Basically,
What's
you can
good
get.
about it?
Well, it's
You
good.
get to sit in your movie theater seat and have people bring you food and drink while you watch a movie.
But that is not the
Alamo.
main
There's those
attraction
in
for
Chicago.
me.
Chicago has
Yeah,
those.
they have them all over the country.
Yeah,
But the
Flixbrew.
main attraction for me is that on Tuesdays, every movie is $10.
Ah,
How much are beers?
I have no idea.
Jim doesn't drink,
much are
so it
burgers?
doesn't matter.
They just
Everything
discounted
is
tickets.
overpriced. They have some okay. I bought eaten some food.
All right. So what film have you seen since you've been in New York?
Oh, I've seen so many films since I've been
All
in
right.
New
So
York.
film blows away theater. I should have started with film. I buried the lead on that one. Sorry.
No, I
Stupid
am
move
going
on
to
my part.
go. I got a Christmas present of a gift certificate for TKTTS, which is the discounted theater place. So I am going to be going. Beth has even tantalized me with the possibility that she might be willing to come in and see a show. Although we'll see if that actually ever
What
happens.
do you want to see? What's on your
I
your
want to
to-see
see the
list?
production of Our Town with Jim Parsons. I've never actually seen that on the stage.
Okay.
I want to see the show that won the Tony for Best Play last year, not Best Musical, but Best Play, which is about to close, called Stereophonic. I would like to see the Broadway production of Romeo and Juliet. I would like to see the production of Gypsy with Audra McDonald that
Wow.
just opened recently.
Wow.
I'll start with those
Wow. Oh my God. Wow. Are those all on Broadway?
right now.
Oh damn. What about off Broadway? What's on your list?
I saw The Merchant of Venice. I haven't really seen anything else off Broadway. Those are the main four that I'm looking at for right now. There'll be other stuff because the spring is when a lot of the Broadway stuff really opens in time for the Tony Awards.
So when you wanted to see Merchant of Venice, did you buy tickets in advance or did you just go? I think there's a show. I'm just going to show up and get a ticket.
They weren't super expensive. What I often
or they sold out.
They were not sold out.
Okay.
I told you that it wasn't really that heavily attended.
I didn't know what you meant by that. I didn't know if that meant just the space was small or
no, the space was small and
okay.
it wasn't
full.
close
Okay,
to being
got
full.
it.
So
okay.
I
love stuff
which
like
I was a little bit surprised about. I most frequently go when I go to a show, unless it's a pre-planned thing with someone else. I usually just go to TKTS and see what's on the board.
So what about late night martinis at the Carlisle with Elaine Stritch
You know me,
performing?
John. I'm always drinking late night martinis. Elaine Stritch, by the way, is dead.
I know, it's the last person I saw at the Carlisle.
I've never actually. I've been to the Carlisle, but
sitting
I've never
next to. I sat next to that. Who's the guy from Harry Potter who died? Who was the bad professor?
Oh, you mean Richard Griffiths?
No. Famous actor.
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
Oh, Alan
next to me
Rickman.
with three very beautiful young women, and I sat next to him. We listened.
I've
we watched
seen Alan
Elaine
Rickman
Stritch.
I saw
one of the
Alan
best nights
Rickman.
of my life.
John, I think I was at the Carlisle
Period.
with you once, not to see Elaine Stritch, but something else. But I was at the Carlisle.
I love that place.
That's
it's a little
very
room.
John,
You're blitzed because it's late night. You've
it's
already
a
gone to
very
another
John
show,
place
and you
to
just
go.
sit there and listen to some old has-been talk about their lives and sing songs. It is the best. It is perfect. Heaven.
Okay.
Heaven on earth. Sorry, just had to put that out there.
I have not been to the Carlisle since.
And the idea of having that's like an orgy of culture. Like you do a play in the afternoon, a play at night, and then late night at the Carlisle. It's like
I haven't been to any.
Awesome.
I have not even been to any of the museums since I've been here.
What? You're
they're
not a
free.
tourist
They're
at all.
free in DC. So.
They're not free, but also it's just I really have not gotten. It's been turmoil, and things are just. I still feel on some level like I'm just on an extended vacation. I'm not really here. I haven't really settled into like a routine.
It's only been 3 months.
Yeah,
though.
I know. So I'm not upset about it. But like I said, if I could get my bookshelves fixed and I could get my printer working, then I would feel much better. So those are the two main goals. And hopefully we can find a different housing arrangement for the mouse.
Yes.
All right, we have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that we've covered the essentials. Shelley, Beth, other things that we've absolutely missed. I feel like we haven't touched the surface.
Any of this essential.
This is clearly the first of a series because this is nowhere. We're just barely scratching the surface. We've touched on moving
John,
in.
I think this is more about the fact that part of you wants to live in New York.
Part
than about me.
Part of me. There are two choices: Paris or New York. That's about it. That's where I want to live. So yeah, I'm sorry.
But you've lived in Paris.
I still want to live there.
Okay, but you've never lived in New York.
No, it's a train wreck. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed.
Shelley, are you ashamed?
I am not ashamed.
Shelley, where would you live if you didn't have any family ties or other things to?
It's hard to say because there's the places when you go to visit and vacation is not a good snapshot of whether you can truly live there.
I totally get you on that.
I would like to have 3 houses.
Okay.
Where are they?
One would be, and I've never spent a considerable amount of time here, but it would be in Zurich, Switzerland.
Okay.
Interesting.
Did Beth just disappear?
Yeah, she's a little orange dot.
One would be in Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
In a very secluded, safe place. and one would be in maybe Colorado.
Okay. So I assume you would be spending the winters in Zurich and the summers in the Dominican Republic.
What's the book about? What's the
That's
novel?
right.
What's the novel that won the big prize? That's about the fake president of Dominican Republic, and what is that? One oh gosh, it's so drippingly
I'm not
sarcastic.
sure.
I don't
It's like a
know.
dark, but it's a fake. It's not Dominican Republic. It's a fake country there. Oh my God, what is?
We visited there twice. We just got back last week,
Oh,
and we of course we stay at a resort, so it's not the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
true experience.
But you
But
loved it.
I love the people. I love the food. I love the climate. I love the beaches. And I'm not a beachy sun person, so that's why I picked that. Maybe ask this question on a different day, and I would pick something else. But
Beth, did you hear Shelley's 3 places she would like to live? Because you disappeared. We weren't sure what happened to you. We thought
My
maybe
87-year-old aunt called to tell me where she is on her drive to
I
get
thought
to
I
me.
thought maybe a nuclear bomb had struck Poughkeepsie, but anyway,
I
I'm
don't
glad
think
that
we're
it was
on a
not.
target list.
Well, it depends on who's aiming at who, right? Um, where
Zurich,
would you like to live
Dominican,
if
yeah.
you could live anywhere, no money asked? And if you want to pick 3 places like Shelley did, you can pick up.
Because I needed 3 houses.
She needed
'cause I need
3.
three
She picked
different
Zurich,
places.
Switzerland, the Dominican Republic, and Colorado.
Those are good choices.
The Feast of the Goat
Come on, give us 3 new ones,
by
Beth.
Mario Vargas Llosa. Do you know him?
I
Do
don't
you
I
know
know
don't.
that
I've
one.
not read that book. I've read
Won the
some.
Nobel Prize. It won the Nobel Prize. He won the Nobel
I've-
Prize in 2010. That's the book I'm thinking of. Shelley, you have to read
I've
it.
not read.
The
I've
Feast
read
of the
other
Goat.
books, but
It is.
I've
Feast
read
of the
other
Goat.
books by him, but not that
Oh
one.
my God, it's so
Go
good.
ahead,
I'll
Beth.
look
Where
Sorry.
would you like to
I
live?
wanted to
Well,
close
no,
it.
I've told you this before, Jim. I definitely would want to live near the water.
Right, but there's a lot of water in the world. So
No,
you
I
gotta
know,
be-
but I love New England in the summer. So
Okay.
probably a coastal town in New England for the summer.
And for the winter,
I like Shelley. I'm like
Argentina.
Colorado. Maybe we can get a little compound together.
Commune.
but you have no like interest in going to like the really tropical climes of sort. That's not your.
Well, I mean, one
Prime.
thing I learned, no, I mean, I love a good tropical beach, but one thing I learned from moving to Poughkeepsie is it's really hard at this stage if you're not working in person with people to make new friends. So I'd rather just go do an Airbnb in a gorgeous location and invite friends than live in a gorgeous location and be by myself. So, and in Airbnb, you don't have to worry about the maintenance or the hurricanes or anything else. You just rent the house, have your week of fun or your month or whatever, and then
Leave.
All
go
right.
pick another place to
So
check out.
I assume this theoretical exercise is based on the budget that we're all living under, because if there's no budget,
no.
it's a totally
He
different
said-
game.
Yeah,
No,
he said
I
no
said
budget.
it was no budget. I said it was
Yeah.
dream.
Oh, come on,
situation.
then it gets a little ridiculous. Because
Why?
I mean, I've seen Brad Pitt and Cher's compounds in Cape Town, and I gotta be honest, they're fabulous. I mean, what is
Cape Town, South Africa?
Yeah, what's bad about that? Leaving the cold northern climes and going to like balmy, sunny till 11 p.m. South Africa in the summer. I mean, and staying at their place. Oh my God, I'll take it any day of the week. I mean, yeah, the
You
limits.
said the 2
what's
places you'd like to
possible
live
is
are
expands
are
wildly.
Paris and New York.
That's assuming my current budget. I mean, my children, but my budget.
I think, John, your
Like-
current budget would find Paris and New York quite challenging, perhaps.
No, you could live in a little tiny place. I lived in a tiny place in Paris. I lived in a box. I mean, it was 8 foot by 8 foot
Boxes
square.
in New York are quite expensive. let me
Paris
just
isn't
say.
so cheap either. And in fact,
And my current budget would be Indianapolis, Indiana.
And mine would be Poughkeepsie, New York.
well, there's still possibilities.
So there you go.
There's still
There you go.
And do the
possibilities
Airbnb
there.
thing.
Well, what have we not hit on? Beth, Shelley, I need help. What have we not hit on? What have we not touched?
I think we've covered it all in this hour.
I think we have talked more about
mean,
my
yeah.
experience than possibly anyone in the world.
All
would
right,
want to know, including myself.
I think the critical question that remains is, when are we going to be able to do a live recording of the podcast in Jim's apartment all together in New York? When is that going to
Well,
happen?
you can anytime you want. I could even possibly see if some of you could stay with my relatives. So
Well,
After he gets rid of the mice.
Yes,
I heard
definitely. after the
Terminator's
lights.
coming on January
yeah, there's
3rd.
never one.
I would recommend waiting till the weather is warmer also because it's more fun.
and the mouse wants to go outside if the weather's warmer. The mouse won't be there.
Yes.
That's possible.
He's an animated mouse who knows it's nice outside.
No, I do think that's true though. That there's more of a problem in
Yes.
the
Oh,
local
definitely,
area.
yeah.
Food.
Yeah,
No,
There
they
you
come
are.
in when it's cold out.
Right.
All right. Well, all right. Then I guess we're going to close out. Until the next series in this episode, which I reserve the right to bring up anytime. We're going to end. Who wants to take
Next
us
time,
out?
I'll sub out, and Peggy can come in and answer the questions about how I'm doing in New York for me. So,
Who wants to say goodbye? Beth, Shelley, you want to do it, or you want me to do it?
You
Just
can do
do
it.
it,
You're on
John.
a roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm on a roll. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. It is it's the end of 2024, and we are so happy that you've joined us. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, that's awesome. Please like the show. That
now
makes
John
Do they
says
still have
it's the end
likes?
of 2024 because that's when we're recording it. But
This
actually,
probably won't get
by the
released
time
for
it gets
5
released,
years.
it'll be the end of
I know.
2025.
Well, actually, I was going to bring up that we should stop putting dates when we record, so that way they can kind of be evergreen and like. people
Although
don't
I
know.
think that the tech, sometimes the context of what we're
I
talking
know,
about
yeah,
is
it's a
important.
necessitates it. I know it's like newsy. Fair enough. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, something you can do to help us. First of all, we could use some money because this does cost money. Believe it or not, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's actually
And we all
true.
are planning to move to Paris.
And we're all
or
planning to move to Paris or South
Zurich
Africa
or
and-
Colorado.
or Cape Town. And
Beth wants to run an Airbnb in Colorado. It
Oh, I
seems.
don't want to run
She
one.
doesn't
No
wanna
way. No, let's be clear. That's what I do here in Poughkeepsie for all the people who come visit, which is great, and I love company, but don't
I was
need to
going to
make it a
say, I
full-time
was
career.
one of those people who came.
so if you're listening to us on
I
Apple,
will say
that's
your
great.
rates are very reasonable. Beth.
Share the podcast. That's something you could do for us. That'll be of great value to us. If you're listening to us on YouTube or watching us on YouTube, good for you. Video first. That's great. And if you're not,
watching
give us
us
a
on
shot.
YouTube,
We're fun to watch.
You need to
I
learn
hold
to
up my phone
scroll
and show
better
things.
through other options on YouTube.
Yeah, there
That's
are
what
lots
I
of options.
mean.
And you know what's weird is at the end of this episode on YouTube, a bunch of like what you should watch next things pop up on the screen that's based on the YouTube algorithm. That is actually just interesting if you think about like what YouTube thinks you want to watch next. It's kind of fun to watch. So please watch us on YouTube. Share our link on YouTube.
It's part of
Share
our
our
YouTube,
email.
how you can self-test for dementia, because I'm guessing that's what they're going to pair this with. Is these self-test.
I will take a
Or
screenshot.
maybe they're going to be ads for bedroom slippers and pajamas, since I don't own any of either
There you
bedroom
go.
slippers or pajamas.
Or Metamucil. I'm not opposed to it. It's fine. I love Metamucil.
What, bedroom slippers, pajamas, or Metamucil?
All the above.
I see.
All the above.
Okay.
If you're following us on social media, we actually do post on things like Facebook and Blue Sky. I'm still posting on X because it's automatic, but I'm not a big X fan. But really, it's not about Elon. It's about the whole.
I remember
entire
when you
thing.
used to take X every weekend. John,
Oh dear
but
God,
that was another story.
Days ago. We are we're here, and we, as always, we would love ideas for guests, for hosts. If you're around, please throw them out. We'd love to hear them. We love to have people on the show, and we love ideas for the show. So if there's something you want us to talk about, we'd love to talk about. I have gotten, speaking of which, Beth, I've never gotten more feedback than I got about the El Camino podcast. I've gotten more positive feedback of that.
I believe
Strangely,
that.
by a lot of very right-wing Christian people, but other also just a wide variety.
There was no political content that I remember to that
Exactly.
episode. But,
I mean, it was Bell. But
No, it's more probably because they're Christian. It's the whole
It's a
pilgrimage
pilgrimage.
aspect
yeah,
of
I
it.
think John thinks anyone who's Christian is right wing, which is not true, but John feels that.
no, I do not feel that way. And
This is the
tell you-
longest outro ever.
Okay, I'm almost
Exactly.
done.
Way more interesting than the rest of the episode. So
Thanks
maybe
for
we should
listening. And
shift it around and do this part first.
thanks for listening. Listen to us next time. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.